Good afternoon and welcome back for yet another Taffy Live. My name's Sabrina and I'll be your host this afternoon. A little bit about me, I'm an assistant production manager with Big Jump Entertainment, but who cares about that? We all know that I'm here working outreach with Taffy to help bring all of you the latest and greatest from our favorite industry. And speaking of industry, speaking of work, we have our annual virtual job fair coming up in just 3 more days. So join us on our Job Fair Discord server to talk directly to your favorite studios. And trust me when I say you're not going to want to miss your chance to get to know all of the incredible recruiters we have stopping by. Still not sure which booth to check out first? We can help with that today. Joining me all the way from France is Drew, representing House of Cool. But don't worry, you don't have to relocate to Europe. House of Cool is located right here in Toronto. Drew, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here. And for those who are watching who might not know about House of Cool, maybe you could tell us about some of the projects you guys have worked on. Something
Mhm.
that people would like instantly recognize, and they'll never ever forget about you guys again.
Sure. Well, I guess the first thing to say is House of Cool is a pre-production studio primarily. So we do story, editorial, and design at House of Cool. We don't do any of the layout. We don't do any of the animation. We're purely storyboards and creative e- expertise so far. Some of our latest projects, let's see, Masters of the Universe on Netflix,
Oh wow!
uh, the, the Paw Patrol movie that came out this summer, Maya and the Three that came out recently as well. Some of the big ones from the past are like The Book of Life, Spies in Disguise, and Troll Hunters. So, and one of the more recent ones, kind of more interesting ones that came up recently was Pretzel and the Puppies, was a preschool show that's just released on Apple Plus. So, a really huge variety of projects from preschool to feature films and everything in between.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have some absolutely massive properties that come through your studio, and that's so cool and exciting. In Canada, like we don't exactly necessarily always get access to like animate on massive projects like that. So it's cool to know that through House of Cool, we still have a chance to like be a part of something that big just in a different capacity. And
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, speaking the name House of Cool, great name. But what does make House of Cool so cool? What makes it such a great studio? Why do we want to be a part of it?
That's a great question. It's a name of a studio, House of Cool. It's a lot to live up to. I'll say that. If you work at House of Cool, you have to bring your A game. Otherwise, you're not representing. So it's really tough, but it's also
Fair enough.
really fulfilling. Um, why would people want to work at House of Cool? It's because obviously we're the House of Cool. That's pretty much it. We could just walk away now. Um, but I think projects obviously is the big part, right? Everybody
Mhm.
comes to studios because they want to work on the biggest and best projects, and we do our best to bring them into Canada every year. We've been doing this for 18 years, and we're just getting bigger and better. I think the cliche answer is probably people as well. I think everybody probably says people,
Pretty
but
much,
what
yeah.
I want to say, it's the easy answer. But what I want to say is our people are great, but also our management team is fantastic. And the reason that we're a little different than others is that everybody on our management team has worked on the floor. We've all done production or storyboards or designs or directing. We know exactly what you're doing on the floor, and we use that to inform our decisions for the studio.
Yeah, no, that's always great. It's always great when the people who are supposed to be like leading you and managing you know what's going on so they can be like, "Oh yeah,
Hmm.
no, this is a struggle right now. Let's see what we can do to help," rather than just go, "Ah, just do it anyways."
Yeah, I think most studios are really aware that things are difficult, but we like to think, uh, we've done the all nighter, and we understand that it can be really difficult. We understand that uh, deadlines can be really tough and you have a life to live. So let's see how we can help you out with that.
It's so nice to have a supportive team like that.
Hmm.
And so, as part of that, being a part of your team, having all of that support, what are other kind of perks and opportunities does House of Cool have to offer its employees? I mean, you're all the way in France right now.
Yes, yes, that is a huge part. So like perks and opportunities, I guess. I think the real thing that House School offers to artists is extra training and continued education. We're really focused now on training and education, both internally and externally. So as you said at the beginning, I'm in France right now. I'm in a little I don't even know, a little city called Valence, and we're doing an education program here with Team Toe here in France, and we're doing a 7 month full time storyboarding program specifically,
Wow.
and it's for people who have never had any animation experience before. These are all second career people looking to change their careers and become storyboard artists. And for us, we're like, can we help them do this? Can we create a program that will help people who have never done storyboards, who've never done animation? Can we help train them to become storyboard artists in 1 year? And that's a challenge we wanted to take. So education is huge for us. We've also run a storyboard workshop program in Toronto last fall, a 6 week program, just 1 day a week, where we were looking at people who already have storyboard experience and seeing if we can, quote unquote, upskill them into more cinematic storyboards. I think that's one of the things that clients always come to us and they want from us. They go, we want cinematic storyboards. We want cinematic storyboards. And a lot of times we go, we don't know what that means. What does that mean? It's kind of this vague term saying, make them better, right? So we've worked with a lot of these feature films before, and we do. They love us, and they keep coming back, and we just want to share our knowledge with these artists as well. So we're using our training and education to also create more training inside of House of Cool. It's a tough job, right? Storyboards is
Yeah.
tough. Everybody knows that. Um, I don't know. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows the hours, and we know that it takes a lifetime to learn a lot of these skills. And we want to help you guys get there. We want to just help give you some of the knowledge that we know and help you understand it better, and not leave you out on an island by yourself. We don't want to say, well, that's your job, just do it. We'll say, here's the project. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can support you through this and try to make you the best artist that you can be.
That's awesome. I know. Yeah, this is an industry where everything's always changing and always
Hmm.
growing. So it's nice that there are studios out there like House of Cool who want to encourage that growth and want to be a part of it.
I feel like a lot of studios are really getting into the training and education now. I don't think there's any studio that doesn't want to help their artists. It's just it is a big undertaking, and it requires a lot of commitment from the studio and financial resources. Um, but House of Cool is now in a great position where we can sort of do that. So my title actually is, like, my full title is Head of Education, Recruitment, and Training at House of Cool, and it just shows that they've made a commitment to really developing this department, from making it something informal to a formal structure, to help all the artists at House of Cool, and and anybody who comes to House of Cool, anybody who leaves House of Cool. We always talk about, we want to train you to be the best artist you can be, and not worry about if you leave the studio or if you take your skills somewhere else. That is just going to happen in any industry. We cannot be afraid to train people to be the best artists that they can be.
Mhm. And that's really exciting. Something I'm curious about though is how has COVID affected these training programs and your workflow even? I mean,
Hmm.
how have you guys managed in a world where we're constantly closing down and reopening? Are you doing these programs work from home or are they being put on pause until you can get back to in person?
Well, I'll say that, I mean, I think COVID and work from home has affected every studio in dramatic ways,
Yep.
um, and House of Cool is no different. So we were shut down basically from the summer of 2020. So we've been all working from home at that time. We've been trying to keep up with our training programs and whatnot, but also we're trying to develop them at the same time. So we have not been able to do them as regularly as we want. But with this program here that I'm doing in France and the storyboard workshop program that we've done last year, we're really looking to consolidate all that information together and create a real consistent program that can be run every year, all the time, and in different packages as well. So um, it has been tough. I think everybody agrees that work from home is not great, although some people love it, some people don't. Um, I think we have to get used to it for a little while at least, and we're going to create our training programs to at least acknowledge that we have to work from home as well.
Yeah. And what about the regular studio workflow? Are you guys trying to get people back into studio? Are you continuing on with the work from home? And how has that impacted your ability to produce?
Sure, I think we are looking to hopefully bring people back into the studio starting in and around May. We're always going to listen to what's going on in the city and be flexible. We don't want to just say this is what has to happen and then make that happen. We have to be flexible. These are people's lives are at stake, and we want to take, you know, at least be aware of that and take that seriously.
Yes.
Uh, that being said, we are a business. We have to run a business. We have to make money. So we do. We're all working from home. Everybody has made the commitment to be online and communicating through their productions. I don't want to say it's been easy, but it's hard to complain with everything that's going on in the world that we have to suffer a little bit to create cartoons, and so I won't complain about that.
That's fair. And I mean, like, it's a great industry to be in. Like, we got great jobs. I mean, we get paid to make cartoons, and now we get
Yeah.
paid to sit at home and make
Yes.
cartoons. So like
Yeah.
it could be worse. We could be stuck behind desks just like compiling data all day long.
And that wouldn't be so bad. I mean, anything that where you can keep working during the pandemic, I think, is a blessing.
I
I
think
think
so
we
as
all,
well.
I think we all know some people who have it much worse than us, and we hope that we can get over this sooner than later and get back to normal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And speaking of looking for jobs, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be very, very interested in working for House of Cool. So, what kind of positions are you guys currently hiring and offering? And is internships something that House of Cool does for students and recent graduates?
Great question. So, we are a pre-production studio, so we generally hire for story, editorial, and design. Um, right now, we're running about 3 projects through the studio, maybe 4, and we're going to have a very interesting announcement later this summer. I think that so follow us on LinkedIn if you want to be aware of that. Uh, we are probably going to be gearing up for more projects later this summer. I'd say June or July. So we're going to be looking for portfolios to keep on hand and look for those for storyboards primarily. You know, we're a storyboard studio, but we're also looking for editors. Editors is going to be a big part of our growth over this next year, as long as well as design. You know, design is going to be a big push for us too going forward.
Exciting. And what do you
Yeah.
guys typically look for in candidates?
Well, we're called House of Cool, so we look for cool stuff. That's really kind of that's it. It's no. So we look for everything. We look for things that excite us. Just like an audience, we just want to be excited by the work. So anything that's interesting and creative and cool and unique, something that shows your perspective and your unique personality, is something that we want to see. One of the biggest criteria for us when we select projects into the future is it cool and is it interesting and can we bring something of ourselves to it, and that's what we want to see in portfolios.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people struggle with figuring out what to show. So
Sure.
I think that's a great answer. I think a lot of people are gonna it's gonna help them, and they're gonna tweak up their stuff and get it ready because there's only 3 days left before they can sit
Yes.
down and chat with you guys.
I think that's a great question. Most people ask. It's the one of the most common questions for a recruiter, right? Is what do
Hmm.
you want to see in a portfolio? For myself, I'll say a caveat is that it's different for every studio. But for myself, for a storyboard portfolio, I would prefer to see 3 samples of storyboards, 30 scenes or less, and using established characters. I think that's the big one for me, is using characters that I would know or somebody would know, and know what they look like and what they can act like, so that we can understand if you're doing one, if you can draw them well, and one, if you can have them act properly.
Hmm.
Um, the other part too is, I know it's very difficult to come up with samples, 3 storyboard samples. It could take months, even a year, to create something like that. So I always recommend bolstering your portfolio with compositional studies or beat boards. Single images that can tell a story and show appeal and show story and show layout and composition, all of that in one image. That way, you can do a few of those and not have to spend weeks or months planning out a storyboard.
Yeah, but they're almost like their own little storyboards.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
no,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So you've talked about what you guys are looking for, but what kind of people are you hoping stops by the virtual job fair booth? What who
Well,
are you hoping to
obviously,
meet?
we're hoping to meet a ton of interesting people. I mean, we always look for the best of the best, but we also look for people who have potential to be the best. We want to see, when we look at portfolios, we want to see the ideas. And if there's an idea that's really interesting that maybe is not executed so perfectly, that's okay. The idea is more important. We can help you draw that idea. That's not the problem. But if you don't have the idea, then that is something that we can't really, full, you know, get into your head. So we just look for people who are hungry and who want to tell unique stories, and tell them with their own personality.
Yeah, I think that's super important. We were talking with I believe it was Guru yesterday. Yeah, we were talking with Guru, and they were talking about how with their animators, they're like, we love it when people add their little bits and like add on. So it's exciting to see that you guys are also like, yeah, bring your ideas, your unique
Yes.
perspectives. We love that. We'll help you build up on that. And I mean, storyboards, you guys are the first like visual representation of the film or the show or the project. So
Yep.
it's
Um,
big
I, th-
idea.
I think it's really interesting. It's just that you never know what project is going to come up in the pipeline. You just never
Mhm.
know what show is going to show up. So it's hard to. I never recommend that people create portfolios to work on specific shows. If you unless you know what kind of show, if you want to work on Steven Universe, that's the type of show you want to work on. Create a portfolio that helps you get onto that. But otherwise, create a portfolio that really says something about you, because you never know what project we're looking at. We might say, you know what, this person is perfect for this project because it's so zany and so crazy and so out of this world. But if they had created a safe portfolio, we might not never have known that.
Mhm.
Um, so always try to put your personality into your portfolio, I think, is the best advice.
Wonderful, yeah. I know a lot of people get really, really nervous and freaked out at job fairs and recruiting events, and they never really know how to kind of like start that
Hmm.
conversation and approach. So, what would be your number one tip for approaching recruiters at a job fair or a networking event?
That's a great question. What's the number one? I'd say just remember that we're human beings as well. You know, we can have a normal conversation. We want to get to know you. You want to get to know us. I know it can be nerve wracking because you really want to perform, and you're afraid you might say something that knocks you out of the running or something like that. but that's not really, unless you say something so extreme that my eyes like bug out, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. It's really your portfolio will do most of the talking. And then we just kind of want to get to know you and get to know your dreams and your career goals, because that really helps us understand uh, what you want to do, and are you a great fit for our studio. So just remember, we're human beings and we won't bite.
You heard it here first, folks. House of Cool. They're just human beings. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I know I've been to some of them, and sometimes I'm like walking around and I'm like talking to people, and it's like high stress, and then someone just shows up and like cracks a joke or says something that's like completely unrelated, and it just kind of like breaks the tension, and it just makes the day easier. Don't put that stress on yourselves, because
Yeah.
you'll end up putting it on the recruiters.
Yes, I mean the great thing about animation is it's not a corporate job. It's not a government job. Is we can be relaxed. We don't have to wear suits to our interviews. We can just show up and be ourselves. And I think we would prefer that, as opposed to someone being something that they're not.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best foot forward. Have you ever met anyone that's been like super out there, who like has a lot of confidence, or was just like totally zany? Like who's the most memorable person you've ever met
Oh
through
man.
one of these recruiting advice or recruiting events? Sorry, and
Hmm.
what would make a candidate super memorable in a good way, of course.
I think I can't think of anybody that really stood out. I think for me, it's always about the portfolio, and if the work is good, and it's something that we say, what, this person has work that should be at House of Cool, or 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 should be on this project. Let's see if we can make that happen. I think I love animation because of the unique personalities. I think everyone has a unique personality, and the more unique, the better. Obviously, we got to work with teams and everything, but I love that everyone is different in certain ways, and they have little idiosyncrasies, and I think that's what makes animation amazing to work with. So that's why I want to get back in the studio, so I can talk to them again, and hang out and have lunch and talk about what they did on the weekend, because it usually blows my mind what these people are doing. Sometimes I'm like, how did you come across that hobby, or how did you come up with that idea? And I think that's the great part of animation in our job.
Yeah, a lot of collaboration, I've
Hmm.
noticed. Yeah, here's hoping that pandemic stays level, and that things don't spike again and we end up in another lockdown, so that you and everyone else who wants to get back in the studio can get back in the studio. I think that's it for us today. But thank you so much for joining us, Drew. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. And don't forget, there's only 3 days left before the job fair. So get your portfolios ready, get those cover letters and resumes updated, and 100% join our Taffy Job Fair server so you don't miss out on meeting all of the incredible people like Drew himself. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time for another Taffy Live. Bye, everyone.